Hello everyone, it's Danny here, and I'm coming to you live here at the Anaheim Convention Center today to bring you some tips about the D23 Expo, which you may or may not know is coming back to the Anaheim Convention Center here in September of 2022. And I'm hoping to bring to you today some tips that help you better prepare for your upcoming visit to the Expo. Now, I've been to every Expo since 2009 when it first started, so I'm hoping to share some of those best practices with you in a series of a lot of videos leading up to the Expo, and then of course covering the event once we get there to show you everything that's unveiled and what it's like to visit the Expo. But let's get started today with a few tips that might help you prepare with what we know so far and what we've known from the past. Okay, so my first tip for the D23 Expo is the arrival or drop off. A lot of people park, some people get dropped off or take a rideshare service like Uber or Lyft. And I wanted to show you kind of the best places to do that and also give you a lay of the land of where some of the major entrances are so you know where to plan to be dropped off. Now, I'm standing right now in front of Catella Avenue, which is a major street that also borders Disney California Adventure, which is right across the way. But this street is usually where a lot of people get dropped off for the convention center for D23 Expo or any other expo that's being held here. But it's not always the best option. A lot of areas here can be blocked off by police if it's super crowded. But not only that, typically in past D23 Expos, this area, this sidewalk here on Catella Avenue is typically packed to the max with people waiting to get through security, which as we're standing right here off of Catella Avenue, we're standing by usually a main entrance that Disney uses for the convention space with their security setup. So you do have to go through metal detectors, bag search, just like you would at the theme parks to enter into the convention center space. And the line for that can back up once everyone's arriving at around the same time. Now, like I just mentioned, I'm actually standing in one of the major entrances to the Anaheim Convention Center Plaza and also one of the major entrances for D23 Expo area as far as getting into the security bubble that they have set up. Now, in 2019, this was a security checkpoint with your bag checks and with your metal detectors, and then you'd get your credentials scanned in and everything right here. So you'd head on in, but more importantly in this area is this building here on the left-hand side across from the dome. This is called ACC North, and this is actually an expansion that was added to the Anaheim Convention Center just before the 2019 D23 Expo. And this building was actually used by Disney in 2019 to hold all of the queuing before the expos actually opened. So when people are waiting to get into those panels overnight or just before the expo opens, or maybe they're wanting to get in just to the show floor or also to buy that exclusive merchandise that may be releasing that day, all those queues were held inside this building in its basement levels. Now, they've held it in other areas past, but last D23 Expo, this was the place that they had used it at. So entering on this side really positioned you in the best possible place to get into those lines and queues the quickest rather than coming from any other angle at the Anaheim Convention Center space here. But any of those overnight queues, like I mentioned, they were all held down in this basement level here. Now, there is another space over on the other side that they do send you to, but sometimes they move these queues over to those queues and it can get a little confusing. But this is a good place to come in from, a good place to get started. Now, it's not the least crowded place, but it's the least confusing, that's for sure. So again, just a lay of the land, this might be one of the major entrances here off of Catella Avenue into the convention center space. And then this building here, just adjacent to the big dome that everyone recognizes, is ACC North. And last time, this is where you went to get any badge help. This was where you went to get your bags or your badge activated if you were having badge issues. And also, this is where they held the queues overnight and just before the expo opened in the morning. So this was an important space. So keep that in mind if you guys are coming. But let's head back out to the street and I'll show you some great alternatives on where to get dropped off and where to come in for parking if you're driving your own vehicle. So if you are coming with your own vehicle and you are parking at the convention center space, this is going to be probably your main entrance into parking. And again, this is Catella Avenue here. And if you're coming from the 5 freeway, you're probably coming this direction and heading on down towards this way. And then you're going to be making your left, just like this car here, right into the new convention center space parking, which was added in this new expansion, like I mentioned earlier. This is not a fast process, I can tell you. In past D23 Expos, this is a massively crowded access, and it is horror stories of people taking 2+ hours trying to get parking in this particular area. I highly recommend that you park off-site somewhere, whether it's at Disney or maybe at a local hotel that's offering public parking, and then walking or Ubering in, or if you can, just taking a ride share or having someone drop you off nearby the convention center space. And I'm going to show you the best place to do that now, because parking here is just really hard and not always the best experience, and it's going to start your day off on the wrong foot. Now, if you are choosing to be dropped off by someone or being dropped off by a ride share and you're choosing your drop-off location, definitely do not choose the Anaheim Convention Center like I mentioned, because you never know where you can get dropped off, and it can be really confusing for your driver or the person that's dropping you off. Choose a nearby location like this hotel here, the Marriott Residence Inn, which is right next door, or even the Spring Hill Suites, which is on the other side. This is kind of off the beaten path, not near all the crowded areas that are being roped off for the convention space. Your driver can pull up, drop you off at the hotel, and then you can make your way right out onto the street, which we were just at, Catella Avenue, and then head on into the convention center space, which is literally less than a 5-minute walk away. So definitely take that tip if you are coming with a rideshare or being dropped off. You don't want to pick the Anaheim Convention Center as your drop-off location on Uber or Lyft. Pick one of these nearby locations. You have a Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf here. You have the Desert Palms right across the street. I can't stress that enough. Every single time we did that with our Uber or Lyft, it was a major win for us. We come over here, we get dropped off by these hotel lobbies. You walk right over to the Anaheim Convention Center space, and it took like 5 minutes. Now, when you pick the other location, sometimes your driver can get caught behind a backup of cars, or you get shoved into a space where you can't easily get out of, and it just really delays your morning. So if you really select one of these areas in advance and just kind of prepare for that, you can make sure that you're not waiting tons of time unnecessarily. And there's a lot of ways to enter in through this way. And again, even better if you're staying at one of these hotels during the expo, because you're within literally 5 minutes walking distance. But there's all these hotels here that meet up right next to the convention center space. You have Residence Inn. Like I mentioned, you have Spring Hill Suites over here. I think you have like CVS and like Portofino over here. So there's lots of places to get dropped off that aren't necessarily the front entrance of the convention center space. So it can really de-stress your morning and make it a little bit easier for you as far as entrance. Now, this is another major entrance into the Anaheim Convention Center space, and this is going to be off of Harbor Boulevard. And of course, a lot of you recognize this potentially because right across the street over there is the Toy Story parking lot entrance, which can be a good place to park your vehicle if you are coming to the expo. But again, a lot of cars can come in off of this side for entrance into D23 Expo and the Anaheim Convention Center space. A lot of cars can get dropped off here, but as you see with the sign straight ahead, it actually says no ACC drop-off, which means no Anaheim Convention Center drop-off. So a lot of this space is typically blocked off, especially in a busy convention like D23 Expo. So coming in on this side isn't always an option. Now, they might have you come in from this angle when you're doing parking if you have your own vehicle, but this is another great place to enter if you are coming via like a ride share nearby and you're walking in. Coming in off of Harbor Boulevard is a great place, and I'll show you why. Now, coming in off of the Harbor Boulevard side is one that a lot of people probably will recognize as the main entrance into Anaheim Convention Center, and the space that's probably most familiar to them. Now, in years past, this also has been a security checkpoint right in front of me here, where they usually have security check, bag check, things like that for this particular entrance. And then, of course, the main plaza that you see a lot of people take pictures of. Disney usually has their main banners hanging off the convention center space. And of course, this area here is typically housing all of the food trucks and kind of food location pop-ups that are coming over here for the convention center space during lunchtime and late evening times for dinner. So this is usually a big gathering space for a lot of people during the D23 Expo, and especially some of those that are coming maybe that don't have tickets to the expo but still want to come and enjoy the atmosphere, and more importantly, show off their cosplay costumes, because that's a big thing here at the Anaheim Convention Center during D23 Expo as well. A lot of people coming in costume and doing kind of their photo shoots right outside here in front of the hotels and main plaza. Now, like I mentioned, this is obviously one of the main entrances because not only the main plaza here, but you have the Anaheim Hilton right next door. And then, of course, leading right up to the main entrance plaza and fountain here, where a lot of Disney cosplayers come and gather to take their photo shoots. And then, of course, head on into the convention center space. Last time Disney had a big photo pop-up right in front for everyone to take their photos in. But I'll show you why this is maybe a great place to come into as well, because all the major panel presentations are held at Hall D23, and I'm going to show you where that's at right now. So just off of the main entrance here, right out front, the big fountain, I'm going to be showing you where Hall D23 is located, which is right down this corridor over here. Now, a big tip is knowing where this is located, because this space is where all the major presentations are held. This is going to be where you're going to find the Parks and Resorts presentation, the Marvel and Star Wars presentations, Disney Legends ceremony. Just about every major thing is held at Hall D23, and it's going to be over here in Hall D, and I'll show you where that's at right now. Like I mentioned, this next tip is very important because it's knowing where Hall D23 is located. Now, we're on the very western portion of the Anaheim Convention Center space, right across from Halls E and Hall D. And this is actually where they locate Hall D23. You can see these escalators right over here headed downstairs. That's typically where the long queues are held just before the presentations to get upstairs into the viewing spaces. And then this space over here, actually where the doors are open now, is actually converted into a large auditorium with, I think, enough seating for over 7,000 guests. And that's going to be where Hall D23 is located. Now, in years past, they did actually utilize the big arena, that big dome that you guys all remember, for some of the presentations that were like the major presentations in the past. But as the event grew, they actually needed a lot more space. So Hall D23 was created, and it's going to be on this side of the convention center now where that's located. But again, if you remember at the beginning of this video, we talked about that entrance off of Catella Avenue and that space where they hold all those queues. A lot of times when you're waiting in some of those overnight queues, you might be waiting at ACC North, that expansion building, you know, since like 5 or 6 in the morning, if you're truly that dedicated enough. And then you're being escorted over here to where Hall D23 is, closer to your presentation time, which is usually not until 10 or 11 a.m. So there can be a lot of waiting for some of these things. So you can now see why it is a little enticing to get some of those priority seating tickets and stuff like that. I did not get any of those this time around. I think they sold out almost immediately anyways. But who knows how they're going to do it this year. But in years past, that's how it was completed. You do have to wait in those queues. But again, knowing where it's at is important. Again, in relation to the fountain right over here, just down this corridor is going to be Halls D and E, which is where they locate Hall D23 in past D23 Expos. All right, everyone, that wraps up this tip video here at the Anaheim Convention Center for D23 Expo 2022. I'm going to have a lot more videos like this one coming, a little bit of a series for D23 Expo leading up to the event, of course, covering everything at the event for you guys once it happens. I'm so excited for it coming up, but if you have any other questions or tips you'd like to see, please let me know in the comments below. It's really going to help me make things that you guys want that are going to help you prepare. In addition to that, I'm also having some videos coming out talking about badges and activating those badges and kind of what you need to do with those and where you go for badge help, things like that. So I might be returning back here to the convention center to show you that. But thanks again for watching. If you haven't already, please go ahead and hit the like button on this video. It really does help the video be seen by other people. And if you haven't, please consider subscribing because there's a lot more videos, like I mentioned, coming on D23 Expo. But if you also like videos about the Disneyland Resort and other Southern California theme parks, you might want to subscribe too because we have some of that coming as well. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.